Squishies! Welcome back to another vlog. This is Ducktales, Season 1, Episode 11, I think? The Spear of Selene. This was a good one. I mean, they've almost all been good ones, and this one was definitely a good one. For starters, is that the first time that, like, the kickoff to the plot has been Launchpad crashing somewhere? Because if so, wow, that's a long way into the season for that to only just happen now. I mean, he's had other crashes. I know that. But I can't think of another time where it's been at the beginning and it's been somewhere other than whatever their destination was. Which, like in the old show, I feel like that was something that happened all the time, was Launchpad crashing them somewhere not quite where they meant to be. Although, even in the old show, usually he got them where they wanted to be and then crashed there. So, you know. But where they ended up was the hilariously named Ithaquack, which I'm trying to remember. In the old series, there was an episode that was like this whole riff on Greek myth. I think time travel was involved. And I feel like it was particularly based on the Odyssey, and I feel like Ithaquack was mentioned there too as like Odysseus' destination. Maybe? Anyway, regardless, this is a very different place. This is the beach hangout resort of the gods, which is a pretty funny concept in itself. And then compounded by the fact that Zeus and Storkules, which is a great pun name, are the only ones there. And initially I thought, oh, okay, I see what happened. Scrooge found the place. He opened a resort for mortals on the island, and it ruined it for the gods, so Zeus drove everyone away with storms. Now, I underestimated that this version of Scrooge is a little bit better behaved, a little bit less willing to, like, stomp on local environments and cultures and that kind of thing. The old one would just go straight into it. Not, I mean, still, but a little better. While this version of Zeus is petty and childish. And in particular, has this very petulant attitude about being beaten in contests. So, basically he lost some contests back in the day against Scrooge and Donald and Della, and so created a massive storm that drove all the other gods off the island, except apparently Selene, who I guess has just been hanging out in the garden. But yeah, like, in terms of the overall, like, arcs of the show, this was, you know, a big step forward in the Spear of Selene arc. Selene, interestingly, when Webby and Dewey meet her, tells them that she doesn't have a spear. She never had a spear, which suggests that the Spear of Selene was not a, you know, as Webby says, not an artifact. I increasingly think it's likely, given Della looks like a pilot. This is something that a lot of people have speculated, but I think this comes pretty close to confirming that the Spear of Selene was a spacecraft. Like a rocket meant to go to the moon or something like that. And it would explain, you know, I've taken the Spear of Selene, I'm sorry, was maybe her taking an experimental spacecraft that wasn't ready yet. Something like that. And, you know, maybe she wasn't allowed to pilot it because it was too dangerous, and she stole it so that she could. That kind of thing. Regardless, I really like the moment where Dewey stands there and says, I don't want to know. I don't want to find out that my mother was a terrible person, because it is very difficult for a child to admit the flaws in their parents. Like, on the one hand, kids are quick to blame their parents for stuff, but on the other hand, it's also very difficult. There's this instinctive thing, even as an adult, to protect your parents, to protect their reputation or their identity or that kind of thing, to protect the idea of them you have. Even if they were, as in Dewey's case, not there, or not good parents, or something like that, that's... You still don't want to admit that they did wrong, that they... and in particular that they did wrong by you. So often, I mean, this is one of the reasons that child abuse is so damaging, because the instinct is self-blame. The instinct is, you know, I did something wrong, and so bad things happened to me. So it's very difficult to face the idea of your parent being a bad person. And Dewey is very scared of that. And Webby recognizes that. And, I mean, Webby's parents are also gone. She's been raised by her grandmother. So, it seems plausible that she understands what Dewey is expressing, and she accepts it, and she says, okay, we don't have to solve this mystery. And that is actually what pushes Dewey to finally find out, because he realizes that he doesn't have to do it, he has a choice to do it, and he chooses to do it. It's a really nice moment. And I really like those two characters together. Not in like a shipping sense, but just in like they play off each other well, they make a good pair in terms of like adventures and stuff. Celine says that Dewey reminds her of Della, and that makes me wonder if Webby is a lot like young Donald. I mean, she does idolize him. She is highly energetic. I can see it, you know? Donald, meanwhile, is going through some things. That is some solid acting. For such a silly character with such a silly voice, that's some really solid voice acting when he said, you know, the last time he says someone always gets hurt. Because, of course, that's why he quit adventuring. That's what all this is about, is Della got hurt, and then it wasn't fun anymore. Then the danger was too real. There was too much sadness. It stopped being fun, and when adventures stop being fun, they stop being adventures. They become frightening. So, just a really solid moment there. Like, Donald Duck has depth. Who knew? I mean, anyone who's read the comics. But other than that, yeah. I also really liked the silly little reveal that Louis' real name is Llewellyn, which is... I always loved that name, but I can understand why he would be a little embarrassed about it. Llewellyn is not a common name. It's not an easy name to pronounce. In fact, I'm probably getting it wrong. The Welsh double L is not a sound that exists in English. And... yeah. Having an unusual name can be embarrassing when you're a little kid, said the person whose parents named her Jed. You know. Come to think of it, I wonder if that's why I picked such a common name to be my name now. Whatever. All in all, like I said, it's a really fun episode. I thought for a minute that it was ending on a cliffhanger, and I was a little confused because it kind of came out of nowhere, and, that Zeus is storming again and the plane is completely disassembled. Which actually, that's something I forgot to mention. At least as I'm reading the beginning, Webby and Dewey sabotaged the plane to get it to crash on Ithaquack. Which is definitely Webby's idea, they make that clear. But that's some manipulative business on their part. I wonder if that's going to come back to bite them in some way, or if it's just going to be left. Regardless, the ending, where Launchpad has completely disassembled the plane because he can't find what was wrong because it was something Dewey pulled. I, for a second, thought that was a cliffhanger, but there was no to be continued or anything, and when I went online and looked at an episode list, it looks like there's only a couple episodes left in the season, and neither of them looks like a continuation of this. So I think it was meant as just like a here we go again, Zeus is mad again, and now we've got to go through the whole, silly tournament thing with him and Storkules again. Which I did not mention because it was mostly there to, sort of as filler, but I think it was their first, you do get the Donald Duck moments, and you do get him, realizing that, his nobody's going to get hurt today near the end was pretty awesome. But mostly I think it was there to have gags because other than the great sea serpent or sea monster bit, there really wasn't much gag going on in Webby and Dewey's adventure. So I think to balance that a little bit, because otherwise you would end up with a pretty heavy episode. Good episode. DuckTales continues to be a solid show. It's not a favorite for me. It doesn't, just looking at animated shows and nothing else, nothing comes close to Steven Universe right now. And I'd say DuckTales is about on par, a little above Star. I don't know. Still, good show. And I think that's about it. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Check out my Patreon for early access to vlogs, essays, gaming videos, and more. And I will see you all next time. Bye!